Hello there and a very good evening and welcome to another episode of the People's Platform here on News First. For the News First team, I am Jayamal Ratnayaka. And today, as always, we have a very interesting subject to talk about and we'll dive right into it. They say learning is a lifelong process. You go to school, you go to universities, and then you complete your tertiary education. But although you complete your academic education, you never really stop learning till the day you die. And today we will be discussing the fact of learning, but in more effective ways, and how the contemporary age has adopted new ways of learning and teaching people to learn how to absorb things in a more effective way. To discuss that and much more, we have invited to our studios this evening Mr. Ranjit Dadivalage, who is an educator, who is an academic, and more importantly, he is someone who has mastered the art of learning to learn. Thank you very much, Mr. Dadivalage, for joining me this evening to discuss this very prominent and very important topic. Let's get straight into it, Mr. Dadivalage. I want to ask you, before the program we had a very brief chat and you told me your track record, and I was very impressed by it, and I'm sure our viewers are also very eager to know about what sort of experiences you've had in life and what inspired you to become an academic and then also an educator, inspiring thousands and thousands of children the world over. So can you just, on the outset of our program, give us a small brief on your track record and your experiences?
Yeah, so if I tell you my life story, so I have been graduated from University of Sri Jayawardenepura in Sri Lanka. That's where I have started my journey.
Yes.
So after graduating, I have been working as a teacher in Sri Lanka. So I'm coming from I know what Sri Lankan education system is. So then I moved out of the country in 1983. And since then, I have been working in, including Sri Lanka, I have been working in 6 different countries. I was in Nigeria, I was in Maldives, I was in Zimbabwe, New Zealand, and currently in Australia.
Yes.
Working as a teacher, and also I have held several positions in Australia, starting from a teacher to a principal and to involved in various other things. And a lot of my work has been recognized by the Australian government as well as the other education institutions in Australia, and been awarded few awards I have won. So I have a passion in learning. So I didn't use the word teaching because I'm against the word teaching. The teaching has to be learning, So it's a way of making our children understand that learning is an individual process. So as teachers, what we could do is to make them learn. So to make them learn, we facilitate various things, the resources or other ways that we could help them in achieving their journey or achieving their goal or go through their journey. So that's what as teachers we have to do. That's what I believe.
Right. Let's delve more deeper into that topic, Mr. Dadivalage. As you know, every sector in this world, as new advancements are made, they go through shifts. There are paradigm shifts, and I believe even the education sector has gone through such a paradigm shift, although it might not reflect fully here in Sri Lanka. And we were discussing about the concept of 21st century learning, and we were discussing the contemporary methods of teaching, or like you say, making a child learn new things. Can you explain to me what 21st century learning really encompasses?
Okay, let me take a small example. Let's say that if you think about the future, so a student in the school right now, or student who enroll in year 1, 2024, will come out of the school in 2037.
Right.
If that person do a 4-year degree, that person will come out of the university in 2041. So the world then will be unknown world. We never know what's going to happen. The jobs that person has to do has not even been discovered. So to understand that what I'm talking is something in the abstract space. It's difficult to comprehend, difficult to understand. So I invite you to rewind you back to 10 years. First, rewind you back to 10 years and see what are the things which were the things available to you.
Yes.
So people did not know anything about online learning before COVID.
Exactly.
So now we have new things. Even people didn't know about Zoom. So like that, if you rewind yourself 20 years back, so we didn't hear about YouTube, we didn't hear about email or anything. So the world will be different. And the content that we are trying to pour into students' heads, because as you said, the paradigm is teacher is the authoritarian who knows everything, and teacher is trying to pour that knowledge into students' head.
Exactly.
So that's the paradigm that we were working from the industrial age. Now things are changing. There are new tools. Even Google, if you want to get anything that you want to know, you can Google it. Google error also has gone. Since this February this year, there's new artificial intelligence tools have come into the scene. You can use ChatGPT. Any topic, anything, I challenge you. Take any O-level question paper, any subject, type the question in ChatGPT. 2 seconds you get the answer. If you want to limit it to 50 words, 100 words,
yes,
they will do it for you. So we are trying to educate children in that era. So the way that we are trying to pour content is not valid anymore. Therefore, for the 21st century, people need, the research suggests that only 4 skills that is required. They call it 4 C's. If I say those 4 C's, first one is critical thinking, creative thinking, collaboration, and communication. So if we can teach students, or if we can help them to develop these 4 skills, then they could do anything. The content that we are trying to pour into their heads, they can get in 2 seconds using any of these new tools. So therefore, as educators, what we need to look at is how could we change our education paradigm from that pouring knowledge into people's head, honing these skills to survive in the future.
Talking about that, Mr. Dadivalage, I was just thinking, if you apply this in a very Sri Lankan concept, especially in Sri Lankan schools and universities, it's a more teacher-centered approach, where the teacher teaches you, in essence, you learn and you leave, and then you come back and answer an exam paper. How do we go beyond this and make this entire gamut a learner-based or learner-centered learning approach, where the student absorbs and discovers the meaning of different concepts and arguments and so on?
Yeah. So that's one of the very important things. So our system is very teacher-centered. Teacher decides everything. What to teach, when to teach, how to test it.
Exactly.
All that is decided by the teacher or the authorities. So the room that we have left for student contribution is very limited. So nowadays, that's not what happens in the other parts of the world, especially the developed world.
Yes.
We always try to make it student-centered.
Yes.
We starting with telling them what is our plan. So what's the plan for today's lesson? What are we trying to achieve? How am I going to test that whether you have achieved it or not? All that be disclosed to students at the beginning and have a conversation with them. Then they will say, no, that's not a good way to measure it. We will do something like this. So then we get the students' input, and it is more student-centered. The thing, what we are going to teach is what they like to learn. That's number one. And the way that we are going to teach is the way they like to learn, and the way that we are going to test their understanding is the way that they want to show how they know it. So therefore it has been very effective. So rather than that we try to give them the content as much as possible and then ask them to come and ask them to memorize it and come and recite it in an exam or test or something like that.
So, Mr. Dadivalage, can you give me an example as to how this theory has been put into practice, maybe in a country such as Australia where you ply your trade? Can you just put this theory into practice and tell me a practical example?
Yes. Let me tell you a practical example. There are a number of different things. I'm just talking about one thing.
Yes.
There is an approach called problem-based learning. Let's for a minute we'll talk about that.
Yes, sure.
In this problem-based learning, what we do is anything that we want students to learn, we will present it as a problem. So in the process that they are trying to solve this problem, they acquire knowledge and they learn. Rather than teacher telling them, they go and research, and this is what you said, learning to learn. If they know how to learn, they will go and research, they will go and bring those information, and they synthesize it, and then comes to the different level of thinking that they can go through.
Right. So I think we are bordering on the higher order thinking concept, because there are two concepts. One is lower order thinking, which is essentially recall and repeat, that we have adopted, and the higher order thinking concept where the skills that go beyond memorizing information, for example, critical thinking, analytical thinking, problem solving, like Mr. Dadivalage mentioned. So let's talk about higher order thinking, Mr. Dadivalage. Okay. We know that when it comes to higher order thinking, there is a very important concept called Bloom's taxonomy, and Bloom's taxonomy also mentions 6 key pillars: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Can you talk to me more about higher order thinking and what we should do to achieve that?
Yes, the very first thing is to understand this, the taxonomy or the classification that you mentioned.
Yes.
So it is not something new. It was first put forward by a psychologist by the name Benjamin Bloom.
Okay.
In 1956.
Right.
So the year I was born. So it's not something new. So there were some various, some alterations and changing the language, and they have come to this current version that we are talking about. It is, so every teacher in this country or any country, if they have undergone an education course, education theory, they have learned about Bloom's taxonomy. Right. So it's not something new for our teachers. They know this very well. But our system has not allowed them to apply it. Because within our system is governed by the exams. So we want people to learn or memorize and recite. So because of that, the opportunity to go to these higher levels have been stopped or prevented. So let me take an example. So to explain you what are these 6 levels.
Yes.
Take any concept. So let's say that we want to talk about an egg. You have an egg in front of you. The lowest level of understanding about the egg is, it is round, it's brown to white color in color, the shell is fragile, you have to handle it carefully.
Yes.
Those are the basic information about the egg. That's the basic level of what is we call remembering. We have to remember the facts, information. Then in this hierarchy, if you go to the next level of this ladder, we come from remembering to understanding. To understand the purpose of these facts, purpose of what we know about the egg, what can we do with the egg? We can use the egg for baking or cooking, or we can use the egg to bind ingredients together, or we can use egg to moisture some sort of a recipe, kottu roti, we put an egg to moisture it. So that's the next level of understanding.
Which is understanding.
Which is understanding. We call remembering, then understanding. Then we come to the next level, which is called applying. To apply, now you have to do something. You use the egg and make an omelette or make something out of it, do a baking, make a cake. That's the applying part of the egg. Then comes to the next level, analyzing the egg. Analyze the egg, you have to look at the parts of the eggs. Egg yolk is yellow color, what can you do with that? The egg white, what sort of things that egg white can use?
What are the components it's made of?
Components in it. So eggshell, so you analyze, you look at to try to understand these different components which comes together about the egg. So then go to the next level. Let's say now we have talked about remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, and then evaluating. Now we are looking at the egg and see how do we check the quality of this egg. Let the egg float in water, or break the egg and see the texture of the white, the yolk white, or the yolk, whether it's very runny, then it is an old egg. So we make an evaluation, or we use all these information and things that we know, all these levels to make a judgment about the egg. So then comes to the final or the highest level of thinking about this egg. What can you make with this egg? Something which someone has never done. So you can create a new sort of omelette, some extravaganza ingredients that you put in.
You can add cheese, you can add any sort of condiments. Yes.
So it's a new thing. You are creating a new thing. So that's the highest level of. So in our education system, we don't leave enough opportunity to get into the higher levels. We give them information. Mostly what happens is teachers have to write the topic on the board, put the notes on the board, students copy that, they go and memorize what are the parts of flower, what are the parts of anything, so you just get the information, then you come and just
apply it.
Not even apply. Very, if I say so, it's unfair for the system. Yes, they do the remembering part, they do the understanding part, remembering part, and sometimes they go to
border on the
applying, but nothing beyond.
But not in a practical sense.
Not in a practical sense, because our assessment, this pen and paper tests, will not provide the opportunity to go beyond that.
Right.
So
I want to talk to you, Mr. Dadiwalage, about assessments and formative, summative assessments and how we can apply theory into practice in the brilliant example you brought forward about an egg and how well-rounded that theory is. We will cross over for a short commercial break, but we will be right back. So stay tuned to the People's Platform. Welcome back to the People's Platform. Today we are discussing the art of learning to learn, and we have with us Mr. Ranjit Dadivalage, who is an educator. Before we crossed over for our commercial break, Mr. Dadivalage, we were talking about higher order thinking and how higher order thinking came about as a result of Bloom's taxonomy, where there are 6 pillars which are remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating application of the syllabus or the content that you learned. Can we make this shift? Can we make such a drastic shift without the support of government and educators and teachers who eventually go on to educate children? What sort of measures should be taken from all stakeholders' point of view, from the government, from educators, and also from the students, to ensure that these new methods, the higher order thinking method, is instilled and it is effective?
Yes, very good question in my view, because if you ask any principal or any teacher or most teachers in this country, they all will say our aim is to produce or develop our students to face the 21st century.
Right.
The 21st century learning has that phrase has become the buzzword. So we talked about it. We are talking, but we don't know how to transform from the current point to that point. There are a number of different reasons for that. To be honest, even the government is trying to do it. The current government is trying to do it, and the previous government was trying to do it. If you go to Ministry of Education website, there are 2 documents. One is called E-Igenuma, the other one is called the New Reform Proposals or Agenda for 22 to 2032 or something like that. So in both these documents, they highlight the importance of this approach, the importance of moving away from this content-heavy curriculum. They talked about moving away from this examination-based assessment. Even Minister of Education currently announced, I have heard it, that he is speaking. He told from next year there won't be 3 term tests. There's only one term test. So in that term test also, only 70% taken from that test. The 30% come from the summative, not from the summative assessment, formative assessments that we do over the term.
Right.
The summative assessment has given only 70%. And he said eventually it goes 50-50.
Right.
But the way I see it, it should go 70-30 or 70-80-20 kind of thing.
70 formative,
70 formative
20,
and 20
30 summative.
30
right.
summative. So that's because when you look at the hierarchy of Bloom's hierarchy of thinking, yes, this remembering and understanding is important.
Yes.
Without that, you can't go anywhere. Those are the basic
foundation.
That's the foundation, right? But the issue now is students have new tools to get that.
Yes.
That information you don't have to get from a teacher or from the school. Even without going to school, by Googling
self-learn.
or using ChatGPT, they can get all that information.
Right.
So when they come to school, they should have the opportunity to go into the higher levels. But we don't do that because our assessment system is based on summative assessments. Because of that, teachers are preparing them. You can't blame the teachers. That's the system. Not only that, the difficulty of change, if you want to change anything, first you have to understand, especially something like education, people have their belief structure. This belief structure is culturally formed, historically rooted in people's mind. We all have our beliefs about what should happen in a classroom.
Exactly.
So when a mom sends the child to the school, mom has some belief this is what should happen in the school.
They have a preconceived notion of what happens in a classroom. Yeah.
So if teachers go against it or beyond it or do something different,
they will draw criticism.
The teachers are telling me. So I have been working with teachers. That's why I have come here. So when I was working with them, they're telling me, if you don't give them enough notes, next day the principal gets a call that this teacher has not done anything in the class. So that's the understanding of our belief. So without changing these belief structures, without working on it, if you send a circular and say from next year we have only one term test, it's not going to work. So what I'm not criticizing anyone for the government. What I'm appealing them is the two documents are both in English. So
make it available in all languages.
It should be available in all languages. That's the first step. So if you want to educate all the stakeholders, make it available in all languages, surface the discussion, and the media like you have a role to play as well to
disseminating this information.
Have this sort of discussions and promote it.
It's about transparency from the part of the government on how this shift is going to happen, involving all stakeholders, including the parents, the children, the educators, and so on. But what are the practical difficulties you've realized when educating teachers in your line of work, especially in Sri Lanka?
There's four components to it. First one is the curriculum. When I say curriculum, it has three parts. Syllabus, the so-called syllabus, the pedagogy, the way we teach, and the assessment. So, without looking at this critically, the assessment and the syllabus, without looking at this critically, without making the adjustments that we want to make, it is difficult to go beyond it. Then comes the pedagogy. To change the pedagogy means the way that teachers teach. To change the pedagogy, the second component is teacher learning. Do we have enough opportunities for the teachers to learn? Learning means not go to a university and get a certificate and course.
Exactly.
That's not what I mean.
Yes.
Professional learning is practically, do they have the opportunity to engage in an ongoing research activity in the class, to change something and see whether it works? It's called action research. So do they have opportunities to do action research? So the first one is the curriculum, second one is the teacher learning. Then comes to the infrastructure, which is about the computers availability, the other resources, the labs, data loggers, that do you have all these things. So that infrastructure, because 21st century plays big role, technology plays a big role in 21st century. So I heard, I don't know whether this statistic is right, but I heard in one of the programs, 85% of the teachers in Sri Lanka don't have no access to computers. So I don't know whether it's right, but I'm sure a large number of teachers don't have access to computers. So then it's difficult. And even in households, we have difficulties. Students don't have computers. So therefore, how can we make our infrastructure better that students have more access to the technology? That's the third one. The fourth one is to instigate change, you have to work with all the stakeholders. These stakeholders include the teaching staff, non-academic staff, parents, friends, old boys. There are some schools, the old boys have a big influence on what's happening in the school. So you have to educate them, the general public, and have an open, honest discussion about what we are doing, not to find faults with people or not to find faults with the system, to have engage in a good conversation to understand where we should go.
Right. In your mind, Mr. Dadivalage, what is the ideal education sector here in Sri Lanka? What do you envision? Assume that you were given the task of restructuring the education system in Sri Lanka. Where would you start first?
I will start from changing the assessment system. The assessment system governs most of the things. So, when you have that sort of summative exam-based assessment system, we have exam in year 5 scholarship exam, we have exam in year 11 O-level exam, we have a scholarship, we have another exam in year 13. Year 5 scholarship exam, from year 1, parents are training them for year 5 scholarship exam.
To an unwanted competition.
Unwanted competition. And I saw a institution in Nugegado, some place, they are running a tuition class for parents or mothers of year 5 students, how to train them for the exam. So as soon as they pass that point, from year 6, they are training for O-level exam. 3 term test in year 6, 3 in 7, 3 in 8, 3 in 9, 3 in 10, 3 in 11, 18 times giving them test, and they collect those test marks, and the zonal department want those marks to be sent. They decide what the exam is, what the exam looks like. It's all lower order. State 2 reasons for this, or describe something, not go beyond that applying level, lower order thinking. So therefore, the whole thing drives by that. So even though I said that I start with the assessment, it is a holistic approach.
Right.
We need to work on all the fronts.
See, you brought up a very interesting point there. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I want to touch on it because here in Sri Lanka, the pressure placed by parents on their children, I'm not generalizing the fact, but most parents want their child to do well. That is common in every part of the world. But here, it's more about academic success, and a child's capabilities are tested and assessed based on how well they score in their term test. So, what message do you have for parents in ensuring that their children are not only good on paper, but they turn out to be good citizens with good analytical skills, social emotional skills, and so on? What is your message to parents, Mr. Dadivalage?
So, if I don't have that level children,
yes,
I deal with my grandchildren at the moment.
Yes.
So, the children, the capacity of children are amazing. So, the children that we have now, their generation is different. Their generation is called Alpha generation because we have run out of all the letters in the English alphabet, X, Y, Z.
Yes.
Z generation is the generation before that. They are called Alpha generation. This generation has born into this technology. During last year, I just share one of my experiences.
Yes, sure.
Last October, I asked my grandchildren, what do they want for Christmas? They jump into the computer and Google it and showed me this is what they want. I asked them, I said, I don't understand, what is this? It's a game or a book or a toy? Then they said, so they showed me that, and then I said, let me write it down.
Yes.
They said, no, Sia, you don't have to. We can bookmark it for you. And they bookmark it. Then I said, so now I need to find out, I have to phone Kmart and check whether this is
available.
They said, you don't have to do all that. let's do it for you. Right? They quickly Google it, and they said it is available at Kmart. It's $65. If you can give me your credit card, I can order
purchase it online. Yes.
I can order it. So that's their world. We are not used to it. So therefore, we should not limit the capacity, limit their capabilities. We need to look at the world that they are going to face in the future. We have to prepare them for that world. It is very, very important. Some parents think, yes, there's a danger in any technology. If you have make the knife to cut bread, but someone can
used to
kill someone as well. So you have to educate them those things as well. The moral development is also important. While we are doing that, we have to encourage them to learn more and more and more the new technologies and involved in problem solving, be creative, be critical, and those higher order skills. So that's the message,
that you have to give. We certainly had a very insightful discussion on the art of learning to learn, and I myself, and I'm sure our viewers too, gained a lot of knowledge from what you shared today, Mr. Dadiwalage. Thank you very much for joining me on the show this evening, and we hope to have you back again to discuss more about the new trends and the new concepts that are brought forward in the education sector. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have tonight on the People's Platform. Take care and stay safe.